Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhairagale, Ni Hao, Junushumme, Washmale. Ohio Guzaimas, Guten Morgen. Hola, Boyo, Privyet, Kaifa Hal? Hale Shuma Chutore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, Fabi, Abhalli Kareaya. Hoş geldin, Nayasaya, Huyamura, Chibato, Chihal, Yud, Kalimera, Khairutan, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, first things first, Allahumma ajirni minan nar, since it happens to be the third Ashra, and we certainly seek forgiveness from Allah Almighty, and we certainly want to kind of, reiterate this message for each and every one of you who's out there. Please make sure that you take full advantage of these last 10 rozas or the last Ashra of the holy month of Ramadan. Ladies and gentlemen, with me, I'm very lucky that I've been joined by my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajra Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is just ready to kickstart their day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, Assalamu alaikum, how are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam, thank you so much Jazakallah khair for introducing me, Shahzad, and I hope you're feeling better now. And like you mentioned that since it is the last Ashra of Ramzan Mubarak, so make sure that you make the most out of it because your deeds are amplified a lot, and seek the forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot, because this is the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is really close to you. He's always very close to you. Obviously he is more closer than our jugular veins, but again this is Ramadan and we are experiencing an heightened spirituality and heightened awareness, especially about our self-reflection. And obviously Eid is just around the corner, it is approaching, and we see that there's lots of rush. People are flocking towards the bazaar and doing their Eid shopping, and I mean the inflation is really high, and we can see that the Eid jodas, they're so expensive. So Shahzad, what about you? Have you done your shopping?
No, well, I mean, I think that there was a time when we used to be very excited about it because that was the time when our father used to pay for us.
Okay.
Now it's we live in a life where we have to pay for our children as well, and it's great. But alhamdulillah for us, because we're most of the time on television and most of our wardrobe is sponsored. So sadly, I think throughout the Ramadan, I've been wearing these sponsored shalwar kameez and, these waistcoats as well. So I have plenty of them. So ladies and gentlemen, I think this gives out a message for everybody who's out there. If you do know for a fact that you have plenty of clothes with you and that you can manage this Eid, please make sure that whatever money you're going to save from your clothes, give it to somebody else, number one. Number two, there was one more thing which I wanted to kind of reiterate upon once again, and that was that because these are the last 10 nights and we certainly do not know when it's going to be Shab-e-Qadr, there are a few things that you can do. For example, make sure that every single day you give out charity. May it be as low as 1 rupee, may it be as high as probably 100,000, whatever you feel like. Make sure that that whoever your friends were, you weren't talking to them, please make sure that you call them, give them a text message. And yeah, I think that these are the actions which, if you will continue, if they fall on Shab-e-Qadr, ladies and gentlemen, the results going to be manifold as well. Seek forgiveness, pray to Allah Almighty, ask for whatever you want to. On these 10 nights, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you dedicate yourself, because I'm going to quote you an example over here. Amma Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu actually used to say that when the last 10 nights of the holy month of Ramadan used to come, so in Urdu it states like Hazur Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam apni kamar kas lete the, and then he used to wake everybody up for the ibadah as well.
He used to gear up for that, and prepare
so for
himself.
everybody who's out there, please make sure that you do that. But not just that, I think because yesterday I wasn't here, so Ajay, you might have the answer and the winner.
True.
Or do you want me to announce the winner?
So no, I can do that. So we asked that which are the 2 surahs that are used for the protection, to seek the protection against the evil eyes, and the answer happened to be Surah Falak and Surah Nas, obviously. And we really admire the fact that you are always writing to us on our Twitter pages, be it my handle or Shahzad's handle, and that ensures that you are participating in our program, and always it feels great, your feedback, your participation coming in, and that's very encouraging step for us. So I think the correct answer was written by Mr. Hasnain Hamid, that too from the Gujranwala, and he is the winner, alhamdulillah. And it feels really great that he recites it, I think, daily to seek protection from the evil eyes.
And you know what, this is a practice, so every single day when I sit down in my car, alhamdulillah, what I do is that I actually kind of play the 4 calls, and I always make sure that, to kind of recite them right when, it's on my stereo as well. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on towards the question of the day. And for everybody who's out there, to participate, it's simple. Which angel will blow the horn to signal the day of judgment? I guess everybody knows it. Ladies and gentlemen, the question of the day happens to be on your screen. Which angel will blow the horn to signal the day of judgment? Please make sure that you write to us on our Twitter handles, which goes with the name of VJ Shahzad Khan and Ms. Hajra Satti. And yeah, thank you so much for all of those people who have been participating. It's a very simple, basic question. I hope that you'll be able to answer it. The first right answer, ladies and gentlemen, will happen to be the winner as well. But now, today happens to be a very important day, and I think that me and Hajra and everybody over here at PT World have always spoken about inclusivity, equality, and how we really need to live in a society where everybody has equal human rights, that people can lead their life to the fullest and they can enjoy whatever each and every individual can enjoy. There's a reason why I'm saying so. The reason happens to be that today, on the 2nd of this month, ladies and gentlemen, it happens to be World Autism Day. Now, when we speak of autism, it's not, imagine that, it's something which parents actually take a little bit longer to kind of realize that their child might be going through something. It might be learning difficulties. There can be challenges which the child can actually face. The schools are not, or the teachers are not trained to kind of teach or educate such children. There are problems, and I think that, we, as those members of the society whose shoulders are actually filled with the responsibility, where we need to make sure that we aware our society. So there's this one thing which I've written today, and I would want everybody to kind of listen to it carefully. So I wrote that the stereotypes of autistic individuals leading constricted lives devoid of dynamism and a full realization of human rights. I think that's something that we gather today over here to talk about it. We have a hero over here. We have a source of inspiration over here who will be sharing his story and how he faces challenges and how he overcomes that. Not just that, we've been joined by a mother, whose child is autistic. Not just that, we have somebody who happens to be a behavior technician. So I think without any further ado, we need to kind of introduce our guests. First up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the behavior technician over here inside the studios with us, all the way from Shifa International Hospital. She happens to be Miss Michelle Shabbir. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. Alongside her, we're very lucky that we've been joined by a brave mother as well who wanted to come on television and speak about how she has been parenting her child, and she's done a phenomenal job. We're very lucky that we've been joined by Mrs. Sidra Faisal. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. And alongside her, ladies and gentlemen, the hero himself. People need to draw inspiration from him because he's one source of inspiration. He's a beacon of hope. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we have been joined by Mr. Musa. Hello, Musa. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit shy to be on this TV show, but I'm willing to give it a try and tell everyone about autism.
Thank you so much, and you truly deserve a big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. It's an honor for us to actually have you over here.
Yeah.
Right, and I think let's kickstart a conversation like Shahzad mentioned. So this is a condition, a neurodiverse sort of, we will ask whether it's a condition, whether it's a disease, and how do we approach this particular topic, because obviously whenever we do program on such sort of topics, so we want to instill the sensitivity amongst the people, and we want to develop this conversation. So Miss Michelle, we're starting from you. Is it a condition? Is it a disease? What is it exactly? And how to approach this particular topic?
So autism spectrum disorder is actually a neurodevelopmental disorder. People often confuse it with intellectual disability and other disorders. But it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. That means that it stays with the person lifelong. There is no specific treatment. We can't say that the autism will go away or there is a proper cure for it. But yes, it can be managed.
Right,
So,
and I think we've seen that especially with the younger children or the kids who are in their infancy stage, Shahzad, a lot, because I've seen that there were 2-3 diagnoses in my family, and we would like to ask you, because since you are the expert in the field, so is there any connection between them and excessive use of the mobile phones? Because nowadays what we see is, because it's a very integral part of our lives, right? So mothers use the mobile phones and kids are involved so much so in that I think there's other senses are not that much developed, right? Do you feel there is any scientific connection linking the this neurodiversity with the excessive use of the mobile phone, especially among the babies?
well, there is no exact cause of autism, but there is this mobile excess use of the screen time is one of the risk factors of autism. And there is a new term coined that virtual autism. It was coined by a Romanian psychologist. And he said that the children who use excessive phone or get excessive screen time, they develop condition symptoms that are similar to that of autism. But virtual autism and autism spectrum disorder are two distinct disorders. Autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder, but virtual autism is caused by excessive screen time.
And since we are trying to figure it out, so that, people out there are more aware of it as well, so can we actually, kind of sort it out where do we know that, that this is something which you were born with, or do you think that, when we speak about it,
Or
or
is
for
it
example, when
acquired,
you
yeah.
bring in, cell phones and all of those risk factors, that unfortunately that you can get to a point where you can become autistic because of the lifestyle that you're living. So is it like,
Or
natural,
acquired
or
through
is
a-
it, do you think that it's acquired?
Well, there are some researches being done that whether it is genetic, where there is a genetic component, maybe one gene or a combination of multiple genes, or
Okay.
it can be that there is a genetic factor, and due to a certain kind of environment that genes get active. So, but there is not one research that reliably says that it is caused because of a genetic
Okay.
reason. But there are some environmental factors. We can see that if there is a child with autism in a family, so there is a chance that there can be another child in the family, and then there are some
Yes,
environmental
yes.
factors that include the parental age at the time of conception.
Right.
This is another factor, and there can be some prenatal or postnatal complications that can also
Okay.
autism
And
can be a
Mrs.
risk factor for the
Yeah,
autism.
thank you so much for very succinctly putting it out there. So, Mrs. Sidra, how old was Musa when you found out about it, and what was your initial reaction? And then what sort of lifestyle changes as a mother did you make to make sure that your son gets a more inclusive sort of a living lifestyle, right?
Musa was around 3,
Right.
and I could sense, because I had 2 other kids, I could sense that there was something different, because
Right.
he was sort of aloof from his environment.
Mhm.
He wouldn't make eye contact, and he was very hyper.
Mhm.
So, I took him to the pediatrician, and he brushed off my concerns, and even the head of department of a very known hospital, the psychiatric department, they also brushed off my concern. But as I searched on his symptoms, it would always come out as autism. And it was a fear too, but I could sense that I wanted to help my child as well, but I could sense that there was something wrong, and I did not know where to begin from. Then, finally a child psychologist who assessed him gave me the diagnosis that yes, he is on the spectrum. And although I was fearing it very much, all through the
Obviously, as a
time,
mother, yeah.
but when it dawned on me that yes, it is there, it was very traumatic, to be very honest. And it was, it was like I really did not know. That was the first time I ever came across the term autism and all while I was searching for it. I did not know anyone who was on the spectrum. I did not know where to begin from. And there were no therapies, there were no psychologists or anyone to diagnose him even in the first place. So he was visiting from outside the country who diagnosed him.
Right.
So then, he gave me some books, and I joined some support groups.
Right.
And earlier it was very difficult because he was told to leave the school where he was going.
Okay.
Because when I told them that he is on the spectrum, I was looking for some extra help, but they told me to leave.
All right,
So
yeah, but in addition to this, because as a mother, now, Alhamdulillah, as Musa happens to be a hero, you happens to be somebody who's going to, share a lot of inspiration for other people to come out and speak about it. Now, imagine that when you finally figured it out, obviously all through this time you were looking, you were searching whether what's wrong, and finally the day when you got to know about it, were you in denial? Or were you like, nahi, mere bachche ko aise, because that's how mothers would do. That's exactly in my case, my mother would have done.
Although
That's very
I was fearing
predictable,
it, I was like, why me?
Yeah.
Because as I searched about it, it said that it is genetic. So I did not know anyone in my husband's family or my family who has autism. And I even went on to have a genetic testing for Musa, and he doesn't have it genetically. So then I was like, then how come he has it? But then I decided that now that he has it, so, and no known reasons do I have for it, but I would rather work on it instead of just crying about it. So I started working on his skills. I took him to a school, and then they were kind enough to keep him in. I used to shadow him myself, and I've been working with my child myself, and mashallah, he has come a long way now.
Alhamdulillah, so for everybody who's out there, I think it's about time that we bring Musa into the picture now. Alhamdulillah, he's driving his own ATVs, he drives his own car, he's that boy on the block, alhamdulillah, maintaining his own bank balance, deep pockets as well. So Musa, let us ask you, what is autism? How do you see autism yourself?
Okay. Well, today is the 2nd April, which is about Autism Awareness Day. Autism is a lifelong incurable condition, which is why it can be made better with the right kind of help. It is a different way to see the world. Well, people on spectrum have developmental problems which lead social, speech, each behavior, understanding, and adaptive limitations. It has different levels, which is why it's called autism spectrum disorder. The abilities of people with autism varies a lot.
And what are the struggles that you face, when we speak of autism? What sort of challenges do you come across?
Okay. Till 5 years of age, I didn't have meaningful speech. I couldn't sit or concentrate for more than a few minutes because of ADHD. I would run, left unintended, without any sense of danger. I was tossing in between schools because I wasn't allowed. I was told to leave the mosque too. I couldn't express my feelings or communicate. I still sometimes talk and laugh to myself at times. I don't like very loud noises. I also need some of my alone time. It takes some time to come in terms and being differently able. I still struggle, and I understand that I'm different and it's okay to be different. I might be going slow, but I keep trying. I would like to be accepted and respected with my differences.
Mashallah, I'm super proud of you. We're super proud of you. We are going out in 46 different countries. People are watching you and they are super proud of you for what you've done and for what you've achieved. Alhamdulillah.
And Musa, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do most? What makes you happy?
Well, I do hang out with my family, and I don't want to see any of them upset at all.
That's wonderful.
And even though I do want some peace to myself, I just understand that I also need to hang out with my parents as well.
Mashallah. Mashallah. And
I think that's wonderful, and I can relate a lot to Musa because I'm also like that. I need alone time, solitude. I need time to recharge my battery, and I think that recharges us a lot, and that's a wonderful quality to
But
have.
Haja, it raises a few questions for people who are out there. Imagine that, if the kid himself is saying that, I was told to kind of go outside the mosque. Imagine that the school that he went to wasn't really welcoming for a child. I think it raises a lot of questions for the kind of community we live in. Now, I think for all of those people who are out there who are running these schools, I know that it's a multi-million-dollar business. For all of those people who are at the helm of affairs, at the mosques as well. Imagine, how can you tell a child that you need to step outside, whatever it may probably be, for you to kind of not be considerate enough is something that, that we certainly need to raise awareness about today. For them to come out over here and to speak about these challenges that they've come across. Imagine, for whoever's watching the television screens right now, if I'm going to tell your child today that, hey, you know what, you need to get out of the mosque, how would you feel about it? Just think for it for a little moment. How do you think that we will be that considerate society or community where everybody's loved, where whatever facility or human rights we have is for everybody else as well? I think that these are the points that we certainly need to raise. Now, with that, I would want to come down to Miss Mitchell. Now, Miss Mitchell, since Musa has raised our awareness about it today, that it's a spectrum and everybody will have different sorts of challenges that they will face. Now, let's speak about the spectrum itself, whether from how bad it can get, or do you think that, how do you think that we identify that, okay, on the spectrum this is where you lie and these are the things that you need to do? Because Mrs. Sidra Faisal just spoke about it, that we certainly did had anybody over here and somebody had to fly from Australia to come and figure it out whether what's going on with Musa.
Okay, so there are different diagnostic tools that are used, and a multidisciplinary team work together to figure out the diagnosis. That include the behavior analyst, the psychologist, and someone who can do proper assessment of the child. That also include the pediatrician. So there is a multidisciplinary team. They all work together to form a diagnosis. We have different kind of tools, like there is MChat, CARS tool, ADOS tool. They can be done, and now they are being done in different hospitals and different centers to diagnose the child with autism.
Okay.
And through that we can figure out on where on the spectrum the child lies, whether is he on mild or moderate or on severe.
Okay.
And when we say mild, moderate or severe, mostly people think that we're talking about the diagnosis as a whole, the autism spectrum disorder as a whole, but sometimes it can be that some specific characteristic of autism is on the moderate level, the other one is in the severe level.
Okay.
For instance, there is a child who have mild level of difficulty in communication, and but he have severe deficit in socialization. So we need to consider that there can be differences in the severity of one specific characteristic of autism spectrum disorder.
I got it. You know, so it can be different characteristics at a different level of the spectrum, even in one individual.
Even
so that's what you're trying to say. Now imagine that, you know, even for Musa, do you know how many Hollywood stars and, you know, people from our industry are actually autistic? They have Down syndrome as well, and they have done wonderful things in their life, which the entire country is actually proud of, and that's what we look forward for you to as well. But very quickly, now, do you think that there are some trigger points as well for these children? That God forbid, you know, if they are on a different level of the spectrum with different characteristics, that there are certain things which the parents shouldn't really do. And how do you think those parents can actually identify कि यार हम ये काम करते हैं तो जिसकी वजह से ट्रिगर हो जाता है या ज़्यादा मसला बन जाता है, you know, for people to understand it better?
First you need to figure out what are the trigger points, and it can be mostly the children get frustrated or agitated because of sensory sensitivities. Like Musa said that he don't like loud noises, so they can be hypersensitive to a certain sensory input, or they can be hyposensitive. A child that is hyposensitive is going to seek the sensory stimulation, but the child who is hypersensitive to the sensory stimulation is going to avoid it. So if a child is hypersensitive to touch, is going to not like the touch. So for that you need a proper assessment from an occupational therapist to know what the sensory sensitivities are, and then you also need the assessment from the behavior analyst, so that you can know what are the behavioral triggers. Maybe they don't like transition from one place to another, or changes in their routine. So you need to figure that out through proper assessment from a professional, and then you can identify the trigger points and provide proper care to the child.
And Mrs. Sidra, so since Musa talked about, and you also spoke about your experiences of the alienation that he experienced from the public spaces, from the schools, or maybe, you know, Shehzad like mentioned, from the mosque. So how did you approach that situation when you see that? I mean, obviously as a mother, so I think your sensitivity is very heightened when your child has a neurodiversity, right? So, and how do you teach others, and how do you approach this particular topic with the people who are in those public spaces? So for example, in educational institutes, or maybe in the mosque, or some, you know, maybe park or some other public spaces. So how do you teach them, or how do you make sure that your child is more included in those public spaces?
Actually, the first thing first is that it's not just the child, it's the families who are also feeling the isolation. Because many a times they are also alienated from the activities and all because of the taboos and the stigmas attached to the diagnosis. So then comes that, you know, you have to you make your own plate. So I picked my struggles that, you know, earlier it was, you know, I was trying to convince a lot of people around. Then I had my people, you can say, or Musa's people, you know, who would be comfortable, and I did not stop exposing him to the environment. I would give him a pep talk at home, so you know, he's sort of prepared, and I gradually desensitized him to a lot of his triggers, and now that he is able to do much more, because it was a gradual procedure. It didn't just happen overnight. You know, it took a lot of time. You know, because if my child is fearful of loud noises, or if my child is fearful of big gatherings, so you know, I put him to a school where it was a small circle, where he was welcomed, where the teacher could connect to him, and then, you know, I took him to the market, I took him to the mosque where he was welcomed. I arranged a qari to come home to teach him. So you know, the learning did not stop, but you know, the environments had to be worked through. So you know, it would have been much better if the society was more inclusive, or if the society was more acceptable, because you know, there is a lot of mocking, there is a lot of taboo, there is a lot of you know, shame which people tend to associate with it.
And in addition to this, you know, there's one thing which you've actually highlighted, and it's really important, because I think everybody in their family might have such a case where they really need to kind of more sensitive towards it as well. Now imagine the failure, alhamdulillah, which is very evident that you come from a very educational background, a very educated family as well. Did you still experience that taboo in your family, or
A
was
lot
it the
of it.
extended family? And
Yes.
then do you think that, for a mother or for parents to kind of answer it back, or do you think that it's best that you pick up on your plate as well? Or do you think that it's the responsibility of the parents to kind of go to speak with them and you kind of make sure that you highlight that, or kind of, give them awareness, a little bit of it as well? कि भाईजान आपने ये बात तो कर दी है, दोबारा आपने एहतियात करनी है. मतलब I think everybody needs to be given their peace of mind as well ना,
Yes.
कि दोबारा इस तरह की बात ना करें please.
Actually, it's like a constant struggle. And there are days when you feel like schooling them. There are days, you are so loaded,
यार क्या ही
then
करें.
you're like just so done with it. But it would have been much better, because I'm here to talk about it. My son is here to talk about it. He talks to a lot of families and other kids who are on the spectrum. And even as you mentioned that we belong to an educated family, but still I was told on my face at least 100 times that he is a curse. And should be repenting about it or something or the other. But this needs to change. This needs to change through our media too, because I see that in dramas we also portray this very oftenly, that if there is something has to be, कि किसी को कोई सजा मिल गई है, and then the person is suffering from some disability or something.
Exactly.
I don't get this connection which they keep on. There is no such thing mentioned in Quran.
And this is exactly something which I've been talking about as well. Now
Yes.
imagine that every now and then, because I think majority of the people do know, the condition that I suffer from. Every
Yes.
now and then you watch a film or a movie, the
Yes.
character actually dies of such a disease. You're
Yes.
like, yeah, why would you want to put such a disease
a
and kind of
Yes. What is
Insensitivity.
this connection that you're trying to develop with that? What is this message that you are trying to give?
Exactly.
They are born with this, and they deserve all the same child rights that any
All the
child
human
deserves.
rights, all the
yes,
human
all
rights
the
that-
basic human rights.
And true dignity, yes.
Education. To sit in a school, basically. To have health care, to be maybe allowed in a mosque, to play like other kids.
Exactly.
Right.
I think
This is not.
it
ideal
actually
for
gives out a message as well. But at this moment, ladies and gentlemen, we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be an autism consultant. Let's get her and let's see what she has to say on World Autism Day. Dr. Sabeen Ahmed, please, can you hear us? Assalamu alaikum.
Ji, Walaikum Assalam. Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Lahore. It's wonderful to have your insight, on World Autism Day. Since you happens to be an autism consultant, so because we're short on time, I'd rather ask you, what sort of consultancy do you think people do require when they come in with a child who's autistic?
And I think I would also like to ask, because of the paucity of the time, that there's lots of conversation on the autism, right? We are doing shows and I generally see that there is awareness. So what sort of discussions do you think we need to have as a society? Do you feel that we have become more inclusive now, or what needs to be done, or we need to walk the talk?
Right. First of all, the first question first, that like you asked about what an autistic child needs. First of all, what is important is the red flags that we see in the child. Because what I felt during my consultancy period, that people, they remain in denial phase till almost 5 years of age. And even at later stages like 7 years, 10 years, and they come to us at a point when things are difficult to change. So the therapies and the diagnosis should be done as early as possible. So like if by 3 years of age, a child does not have speech and a child does not interact socially, does not communicate, does not follow the instructions, and does not respond to his name calling, then it's always better to get a proper consultation. That means that you have to go to a psychologist where there's a team and they will assess the child. So I think that first of all, parents have to come out of denial, and by 2.5 or 3 years of age, they should go for the diagnosis, so that the treatment and the therapies can be started right on time so that the child can benefit from it. And the second question, which you have asked, what I feel till date, what is important is that awareness is lacking in the sense that we need to have more acceptance towards autism, towards many things, of course, but because in this case, you see that the child appears normal, and even I remember that when my son, he's 19 now, and he's a high functioning autistic child who's appearing in O levels inshallah this year. But when he was 3 and 4 years, even he was diagnosed, and like I have family members saying कि ये तो बस बहुत बदतमीज है, इसको एक थप्पड़ मारो तो सही हो जाएगा. So you need to have more acceptance. And what challenges I face, like you're talking about, what society needs more inclusion. It is very important. See, like when the child goes to the school, the first and the foremost thing that he is aloof there because he stays in his own activities, in his own shell. And secondly, when the child grows a little bit, like in class fourth, fifth, then the concept of bullying starts. So bullying, even children who are underconfident, even they face so much bullying. So what to talk of our autistic children? So this needs to be catered a lot. And then after that, after O levels, after their high school education, if they read, because I know a lot of children who could not continue their academic education despite their great skills just because of the issue of bullying. And after that, I would suggest that.
Yeah, there's one more thing which I would like to kind of add on over here, and I would want your insight on that. Now, imagine that because you happen to be an autism consultant yourself, do you think that the standard education that me, Hajra, everybody has received, from schools and colleges and universities is the model that the child really needs to kind of take up with? Or do you think that there needs to be new education models being introduced for children with learning, challenges? Do you think that that will be more helpful for them?
Or education should be different for neurodiverse and neurotypical people in that sense?
Definitely. There's we call it an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. That is made for these children and for each child. Even, there's, like we've been talking about, it's a spectrum disorder from mild, moderate to severe. So every child has different kinds of strengths and weaknesses. So we have to make the plan according to that. Like we can't just, bombard those books and those all Urdu, English, Islamiyat, and we have to learn by rote, or according to the child's cognition, we have to change it. So this is also an important part of the education, which needs to be addressed.
Exactly, and anything for the parents who are out there as well, because obviously, you yourself as a parent, what were the challenges that you have come across as well, and what would you recommend to parents out there? Obviously, we have spoken about how the early detection needs to be there and we need to come out of denial. Do you think the therapies will always work? Do you think it's one formula fit all? Or do you think everybody, according to the spectrum, will have a certain different sort of therapies that they will have to pick up on?
Right. For this, like you see, we have to go one step at a time. Like we start with the therapies, and the take-home message I would say for the parents is that they need a lot of patience, and secondly, they have to work as a family. I am blessed to have a family which is very supportive. My husband and my eldest son, who have worked all through these years with me in supporting Ibrahim and in educating him. So it's not, a one-man's task. So what we can do is that it's important that the child should be taken as a family member, and then all the activities that we are doing with the other children, we should also do with them. We should not shy off, or just because he's not becoming a part of it, so we let him live his life and leave him apart. They should take them everywhere, to the parks, to wherever, entertainment things, wherever they are going, they should take. And secondly, just one for the early, because I work with children who are, newly diagnosed. What I feel that mothers have a lot of impatience. So it's a very, gradual, at times, I'll give you an example that I remember Ibrahim was 3.5 years, and to make him clap, it took me 6 months to make him clap. And I remember another thing which he was stuck was with the 3 colors, red, green, and blue. It took almost 3 months to make them. So the achievement
is exactly the kind of message which needs to go out there as well. But because of the paucity of the time, Dr. Saiba, thank you so much for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And very quickly towards the end, I think there's one last question which I have for Musa. So Musa, towards the end, how do you want people to approach you, or somebody who's actually got autism?
How can society be more inclusive?
Yeah, how do you want us to approach to somebody who's actually autistic?
You will have to be patient, and I need a little time to know someone so I can be friends with them. I find it difficult to make friends, but I want to make friends. I don't like it when people are bullying me, teasing me, or say unkind things. We all deserve equal chances.
Exactly.
That's-
Thank you so
that's
much for
wonderful.
being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Fisher.
you so
Thank you
much,
so much,
Ram.
Mr.
Thank you so
Professor.
much.
And thank you so much, Musa. You know, you've been inspiration. Thank you so much for coming out and speaking about it. For
That's
that, ladies and
wonderful.
gentlemen, we're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere, because when you come back, as you all know, that it's the last Ashra of Ramadan. We have a Naat. Please make sure that you stay with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned, and for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, obviously a day cannot go by if you're not going to remember the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on whose footsteps we certainly want to live our lives as well. You know, we certainly seek forgiveness from Allah Almighty, and the only way to Allah, as we Muslims think, is through what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us. And time now for a naat as well. And to do the honors, we're very lucky that we've been joined by Ms. Taiba Pirzada. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining us. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Let's take a listen. Please, Bismillah.
جزاك الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وسلم عليك يا حبيب الله. محتاج نظر ہے حال میرا سرکار توجہ فرمائیں سرکار توجہ فرمائیں حاضر ہے در دولت پہ گدا سرکار توجہ فرمائیں سرکار توجہ فرمائیں میں کر کے ستم اپنی جاں پر قرآن سے جاؤں گاہ سن کر میں کر کے ستم اپنی جاں پر قرآن سے جاؤں گاہ سن کر اور آیا ہوں بہت شرمندہ سا سرکار توجہ فرمائیں سرکار توجہ فرمائیں میں کب آنے کے قابل تھا رحمت نے یہاں تک پہنچایا میں کب آنے کے قابل تھا رحمت نے یہاں تک پہنچایا سرکار پہ تن من جان فدا سرکار توجہ فرمائیں سرکار توجہ فرمائیں اور ایک میں ہی نہیں پوری امت ساری دنیا ساری خلقت ایک میں ہی نہیں پوری امت ساری دنیا ساری خلقت ارے تکتی ہے رستہ رحمت کا تکتی ہے رستہ رحمت کا سرکار توجہ فرمائیں سرکار توجہ فرمائیں محتاج نظر ہے حال میرا سرکار توجہ فرمائیں سرکار توجہ فرمائیں
سرکار توجہ فرمائے. جزاک اللہ. Thank you so
جزاک
much
اللہ
for
خیر.
being with us, and thank you so much, for
Thank you so
reciting
much.
such a beautiful naat for all our viewers who are out there as well, and for everybody, ladies and gentlemen. As at the beginning of the show, we've spoken about it. These are the last 10 rosas, the last Ashra. Allahumma ajirni minan nar. Seek forgiveness from the hellfire as well from Allah Almighty. Remember us all in your prayers, and make sure that that you have this passion for goodness to do. For everybody who's out there, for everybody who's around you. Whenever you touch their lives, make sure that they take a positive impact. And that's it. That's all we want. For a community that is more inclusive, that has more patience towards people who unfortunately cannot contribute the way that everybody else do. They're specially able. Give them that space. Learn from it. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Remember us all in your prayers. Until next time, look after yourselves. Good morning.
Good morning.
Allahumma ajirni minan nar.
Ramazan Mubarak.
Jazakallah.